Good day, everyone. Welcome to hashtag Keep the Flame Alive with Jim Dawes Sensei from Japan. This is the second of third series parts of foreigners in Japan. Welcome, Dawes Sensei.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Just sorry, go on.
A little disclaimer for anybody who's thinking of maybe grabbing a drink and sitting down and watching this. I'm in no position to be giving any advice, and there's going to be no mind-blowing words of wisdom, no deep insight into Japanese Budo or culture. I'm just a simple guy, and if I could give any hints on what life is in Japan through my narrow perspective, then great. But otherwise, I'm just happy to be here to speak to you, Sensei.
But grab a drink and listen in anyway.
Okay. I got mine.
All right, I've got mine too here, so cheers. Okay, Jim Dawes Sensei has his own group of dojos in operating outside Tokyo, and we're going to talk about it. So I want to break up things into three parts. So first, the why you went to Japan.
Okay. Well, of course, I started Aikido in '91 with James Sensei. So after about 10 years, I mean, he retired from full-time training and full-time teaching, sorry. So after he passed the dojo down to other students, it kind of just slowly faded away. And then I trained with Mark Lemon Sensei at the Shudokan for a little while, but then just wanted more, wanted to see what Japan was all about, I guess. And I had just a whole bunch of bad luck and good timing, I guess. So just made the move to Japan.
Can you clarify the bad luck and the good timing? Everyone, sorry, just before you start.
Sure.
We started this interview a few days ago, but the typhoon played havoc with connection, so we're redoing it. I know some of the answers, so I'm going to push in the right direction. Okay, please.
Okay, well, I mean, when I was in my teens and early 20s, I was doing a lot of things. I was skateboarding, I was playing in a band, I was into fast cars, and just the bad luck, I guess I broke my leg skateboarding. My car transmission blew. Like I said, Jeanette Sensei stopped teaching. The band broke up. And then the job I was working at, the company went bankrupt. So the only thing I had left was Aikido. So I thought I'd try to get a little change of momentum and decided to go to Japan. Spoke to Jeanette Sensei and actually spoke to Mustard Sensei, but I don't think he remembers. And I was intending, just like everybody, just 6 months or a year, but one thing led to another, and 16 years later, I'm still here.
Broken down car, teacher left you. There's a country and western song in there somewhere.
Yeah. Actually, I was a truck driver.
There you go. See? Yeah. So that's the why. And I guess you went to Tokyo because of Yoshinkan and stuff. Was that the first dojo you went to?
Yes. So, well, I got in touch with Matt Murray Sensei. So he was, I think, the head of the international department of Ochiai Hombu Dojo at the time. And I hadn't decided if I wanted to do Sensei or not. Of course, I read the book and it was an option, but I just looked at the homepage, seen all the big names, the Uchideshi.
Hold on. When you say read the book.
Oh yeah, so yeah, now there's a couple books, but the Angry White Pajamas.
Okay, the book.
Yeah, the book, the original, I guess. And then so it just seemed like I could get more training, and it was in Tokyo. So, I mean, I was wet behind the ears. I didn't know anything, so I just went there at first.
And then?
Yeah, and then, I mean, the training was fine. I trained there for about 1.5 to 2 years, and then eventually moved over to Yoshinkan Aikido Ryu, so Ando Sensei's dojo.
Understand. Why the move? I think if you can draw, when was this? What year?
So I arrived in Japan October 13th, 2004. And then I think the first time I went to Ando Sensei's dojo was the following May, so roughly 6 or 7 months after. And then I continued to go about once a week or once every couple weeks. And then I actually made the move over, I think in the end of 2005 or 2006, sorry. I can't remember.
All right. So, well, those were interesting times in the Yoshinkan. So if you want to reflect on that, you can. If you don't want to, that's fine. But why the move? Why?
Okay, well, actually, since our warm-up interview a couple days ago, I wanted to get you said you had your own ideas about the Sensei course, if you don't mind, because like I said, I only read the book, and then when I arrived, my neighbors, they lived in the apartment beside me, were Sensei, and then of course I watched the training, I seen the classes, I spoke to the students. So, but that's the only opinions I have. I think you know more about it than me and seen different courses and spoken to more people. So what did you notice has changed?
I'll get to that. Definitely give you my opinion, not a problem. But
All right.
Why didn't you do the course?
Okay, well, it's easy. Like I said, I came to get as close as possible to Gozo Shioda Sensei. Of course, he passed away, but I mean, the people who were closest to him, the second generation teachers. So what I've seen from the course and what I've heard from people taking the course and former graduates was that, at least during the time I was there, that they weren't really being taught that much by the big names that were at the dojo. It was more the graduates from 2 or 3 years before and some other semi-senior teachers. Of course, they had a lot to offer. The training was good. The training was hard. It had a purpose, but it wasn't why I came to Japan. It seemed, if I can, to quote Malik from the other book, it seemed not so much about Aikido. So maybe more about Yoshin, the spirit, but not really about the Aikido. I think the balance had changed, and that's what I wanted to hear from you.
Okay, all right. Before we do that, I'm not hedging out this, before we do that, you said you wanted to learn from the second generation.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to have to correct you on that.
All right.
The teachers who were at the Yoshinkan when you were there were not second generation. They were
okay.
Down.
Okay.
First,
I know what you mean there.
Yeah. So it's an interesting point though, because people think they were direct students of Shoda Gozo, so they were second generation. No, the first generation of students in the Yoshinkan were people like Kushida Sensei, Inoue Sensei, and then after that there were other people like Yagi Sensei, then moved down to Takino Sensei, Chida Sensei, and the people they taught. So we're going down to like 6th generation.
Okay, the teachers that had hands-on experience who were close with Shioda Sensei.
I know what you mean, but I wanted to clarify that because it's a misconception.
All right, thank you.
Probably understand. Okay, so now in, I think, was it to 91 or something, they had the first international instructors course. Prior to that, it was called the Kidotai course or the Riot Police course, where you got in there and trained with the police. It was called the Kidotai course. It wasn't called a basic course. It wasn't called an instructor course. It was grooming you to become an instructor, but didn't teach you how to teach. And yes, it was really hard. And I did a little bit of Roland Thompson's course, about 6 months of it. Prior to that, I did in 1983, about 2-3 months when I was staying in the dojo. And then when I'd go and visit the Yoshinkan after 1990, 91, and they started the Sensei course, it was called the instructor course, but that was a false label. No one was taught how to teach. And if they were taught very badly. You're right. They were thinking about building spirit, and I think that they should have changed the name of the course for a start. That was one thing. Next thing, a lot of people who are teaching the course shouldn't have been teaching the course. A lot of people assisting the course should not have been doing that. Like you're right, the top teachers weren't teaching as much as they should have. And that was a crying shame. But even you got to a point where in the Kenshu, when the Kenshu should have been taught should be taught by the top teachers. It wasn't. Yeah. It was being taught by, people 3 or 4 steps down the rungs. So I think there was an endemic problem in the Yoshinkan. Partially, the teachers were really busy. They were short-staffed, etc. But that's excusing the issue. I know in the Kogenai days, the Kenshu was taught by the top teachers. And when you did the Kido Tai course, it was taught to top teachers. Kancho Sensei, Shoda Gozo Kancho used to walk on the mats and check people too. So he used to teach the Ippan class as well, Kancho Sensei. And people were surprised to hear that. So I think as things progress, it changed. But I think the course was a very basic course. And yes, it was to teach you Yoshin. But as I said in the past, anyone can teach a Hajime class and one, teach you something, or two, kill you. Very, very few people can do both in a Hajime class. And that's the challenge of a teacher. Unfortunately, no one explained it to the teachers at the Yoshinkan. If you do one of Chida Sensei's Hajime classes, you learn something and you would die as well. I'd done Hajime classes under other teachers I don't want to mention, but you're just being, flogged. You would didn't learn anything. In fact, it was probably bad for your technique the way you're doing it. So yeah, that's my opinion. Yeah.
So actually, the time I was there, like you said, the evening classes and the Kenshu classes, at that time, they were being taught by Inoue Sensei and Chida Sensei and all the teachers. So I could get more out of the basic classes. Yeah, the training wasn't as hard, but like I said, I could get the hands-on. I could take uke. If you're fast, you're quick, and you want it, you could take the uke. So I got a lot more out of the Ippan classes, the general classes, than I think I would have if I would have taken the Senshusei course. It was what I was looking for anyways.
And here's another problem. In the late 90s and early 2000s, when I used to go to the Yoshinkan a lot, prior to that, people, the Kenshusei, used to say that the Ippan were lazy and didn't have spirit, and but later on, the Ippan classes had more spirit, more oomph than the Kenshu. I know Kenshu, people weren't meant to sweat or whatever, but it just lost its magic.
Oh, really?
I remember doing one step of one technique for 45 minutes, in the Kenshu, and being totally immersed. That was the level of the teachers. They could make you do one technique, one step, and keep you focused and interested.
Yeah.
No. I kind of got lost once when I'm not going to mention the name, but I went there for a Kenshu, and we ended up doing an arm wrestle at the end of the class. and that's when I thought, no, this is just rubbish. It's meant to be a Kenshu, for Christ's sake. It just lost its way. So anyway, what drew you to Ando Sensei's dojo? I mean, there are other dojos as well. You could have gone to Yamanashi, or you could have gone to,
Sure. Well, Jeanette Sensei first mentioned Ando Sensei. He recommended Ando Sensei. His former student, Stephen Ullman Sensei, he was with Ando Sensei for a while. So, of course, I went and checked him out, and the atmosphere was just completely different. Like you said, the Kenshu class, it was, I could see passion in Ando Sensei. Of course, his character, his technique, but just, I think it was more of teacher and student. So whereas the Ochiai Hombu Dojo was the building, but the teachers kind of share students, the students share teachers. Of course, you have your favorite teacher, some of your favorite students, but there didn't seem to be the same connection and passion. So yeah, I just, one Kenshu class at Ryu Dojo and I was hooked. I knew that's where I had to go.
Cool. We're going to come back to that student-teacher thing later, right?
Sure.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought. The Ando Sensei has a different way of doing things.
Okay.
Okay, and he's very charismatic. Always has been. Always been very feisty and very. He's a competitor.
Yes.
I don't think that has changed. He was very much a competitor in the Kogenai days, and I don't think that's changed. And that's I think one of the things that drives him. And I think maybe, as we mellow, we realize the competition is not with others, with ourselves. I think some teachers get complacent, and Ando Sensei is still, he, like Reg says, he's researching, he's looking at other things. Can you talk about that?
Actually, Reg didn't say Ando Sensei's name, but thank you.
Oh, yeah. Well, sorry, I was talking about someone else. Yeah. Okay.
But so yeah, Ando Sensei is a genius. He's continually growing. He's evolving. I mean, he's what Aikido is. So, and actually, he's quite like yourself, Sensei. I mean, you both got the Aiki TV and the View on Demand, doing the different competitions for kids and stuff. I mean, he is Aikido. I mean, he's working endlessly to not just this era. He's thinking about the future and.
So, why? I'm gonna ask the question, right? Why wasn't he? Why didn't he become kancho?
Yeah, well, so I only have my opinions. I don't have facts.
Yep. Okay, go for it. Only if you want to share them.
No, but it's like I said, it's only an opinion. So I don't know, but maybe Hombu Dojo wanted to keep things more within. Things could be more under control. Yeah, I don't know, but it's unfortunate. I mean, things would be a lot different now.
It would be, and I have had this conversation with Ando Sensei, you know, but how it's the first time in the Yoshinkan history, and I don't know about other dojos, but where the Shuseki Shihan is outside of the Hombu. So it makes things a little bit different, difficult. When the Hombu should be driving the technique and the etc. etc. It makes for an interesting, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're still all part of the same family, but just at different dojos, I guess.
Cool. All right. Look, so going back to you, right? So you went to Japan, became a deshi, right? And by the way, people, I first met Jim Dawes Sensei in 2005. And what dan were you?
What's that?
What dan were you then?
I think I just turned second dan.
Second dan. It was young and fit, and he killed me.
No.
Yeah, we had a good class together, and I've also trained with him at Ryu Dojo.
Actually, I still remember that Ochiai class, and after the class, you smashing me with Tenchi Nage.
Really?
Yeah.
You sure it was me, not someone else?
No, it was you. It was in the far left corner. It's the exact same technique that Nate Innocente broke my big toe in Chicago, so I remember it well.
Okay, all right. Now I remember training with you then, and yeah, it sticks in my mind. When did you start to teach on your own? So I take it after, as a deshi, you started instructing in Ando Sensei's in Ryu Dojo?
Yes. So I was full.
Please.
I was full-time uchideshi for 9 years, and so, well, I mean,
yeah.
If you want to know about uchideshi, then it's a great book. But so basically, the first few years of uchideshi didn't do that much teaching, kind of just assisting, helping, taking uke, the cleaning, all the usual stuff. But after 2 or 3 years, start taking smaller classes and being beginner classes. Then in 2015, went independent, and now I'm teaching full-time for Meiryukan.
Okay, so just when you say independent, in the Western sense, it's got a different connotation. Can you explain?
Yeah, when I put independent up on the translation for the homepage, it took a while trying to figure out what word independent, established. But anyways, it's still all part of the same tree. Like I said, you got the Hombu Dojo at the bottom. It splits out to Ando Sensei's group, Takano Sensei's group, Pai Sensei's group, and then it just branches off further into Meiryukan.
Okay.
And the other smaller groups.
So just to get this right, the Meiryukan is under Ando Sensei, and Ando Sensei is part of the Aikido Yoshinkan Foundation.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Okay. All right. So cool. How old is Meiryukan now?
Now, it just turned 5 years.
And how much input does Ando Sensei have in your organization? How far are you away from Urayasu, and how much input does he have?
Well, location-wise, it's about an hour and a half car ride or train ride. But input, he doesn't say much now, but it was those 9 years of know-how and the advice and just watching Sensei and how he runs things that I think is helping me out now.
Okay. Going back to those 9 years as Uchideshi, did you
Sure.
live in the dojo?
No, I didn't. I lived just a short walk down the street.
So, you know, you tell me what Uchideshi means.
All right. Well, I mean, I think everybody knows this Uchideshi inside student, but it depends on what art, and what dojo and what connection. But for me, it was more of just commitment and trust. So you have to commit yourself 100%, of course, to your teacher, and then the dojo, then the students, and you have to just trust. You have to trust the teacher. The stuff you do, sometimes, of course, there's doubts and hardships, but commit and trust. That's about it.
Okay, so Jim Dawes Sensei read my mind and he answered the question before I asked. My question was going to be, you know, if you're not living in, what qualifies you to be an Uchideshi? Not just you, but if you have deshi now, they for all intents and purposes, they won't be living with you, but they still be deshi. What would you expect from them, and what did you, as an Uchideshi, what did you give your teacher that made you feel like you were a deshi, like as opposed to a normal student?
Well, I can tell you what's not a deshi is just taking uke for the instructor a few times, pouring a few beers, and carrying his bag. I mean, you have to be ready to do anything. And like I said, just commitment for everything. I mean, I could go on. Like I said, I had 9 years. It was full time. I didn't even have time to think. I had to plan time to think. So it was only Aikido. And you just have to be able to give up yourself and possibly nothing in return.
So you said you could give me some anecdotes. Interesting times as Ando Sensei's Uchideshi.
Wow, so many. I mean, I could write a book, but I guess the first time I went with Sensei overseas, we went to Poland and Ukraine, and it was 2 weeks. And in Ukraine, so the very first night, Friday evening, it was, you know, the place, Lviv, up in you climb all those stairs. Anyways, Friday night was pretty dirty. The air was bad. The windows weren't open. So we finished the training, went back to the hotel. And then Saturday morning, just before they were coming to pick us up, Sensei says, "Yeah, I'm not teaching today." I said, "Whoa, what do you mean? What do you mean you're not teaching?" He says, "You go." I said, No, you go. Us. Then, so the car pulls up. I walk outside. They're like, "Where's Ando Sensei?" I said, "Yeah, sorry, he's not feeling well." And then they started just rambling on, but of course I didn't know what they're saying, but I could tell they weren't happy. But well, so they dragged me to the dojo and then had all the students lined up. It's Saturday morning, and this is when all the Ukraine groups were still together. So it was a big seminar. There was at least 200 people there. And I walk onto the mats. Everybody's like, whoa, wait a minute. So, I mean, just this kind of pressure, and you have no choice. You can't back out. You got to do it. And I mean, it was a good experience. I mean, it was stressful, but I'm glad I did it now. What wasn't at the time.
And did he question you afterwards?
No, he just said, "Oh, Scott, good job," whatever. Then he asked me for a banana, and I had to try to find a banana. That's a whole nother story. But.
Yeah. So, look, but you know, you cannot script the life of an Uchideshi. You cannot script traveling with a teacher. I've got interesting stories of traveling with Inoue Sensei, hosting people here, traveling with my uncle. You know, it's yeah, you just got to be on the ball all the time. But it teaches you a lot, though. It does teach you a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Teaches you how to activate without sleep, how to get up at 4 a.m. and run baths. Yeah, a lot of stuff.
So I'm going to push this. What makes you an Uchideshi, or not you, but what makes someone an Uchideshi if you're not living in the dojo or living with the teacher, which was the old understanding?
Well, basically,
let me just tell you something. There's dojos in Australia that run 2 or 3 times a week, right? An hour and a half or 2 hours. And the teacher there has uchideshi. They rock up 2 or 3 times a week and they uchideshi. So
well,
you don't have to comment on that, but you know, I need you to see where I'm coming from. What constitutes an uchideshi?
Well, I guess that's just a commitment that the teacher and their student has. If it's relative to the other students, then I guess you could call yourself an uchideshi. But I think there has to be more to it. You have to be spending quality time with your teacher, not just a couple hours a week and just taking uke and pouring beers, like I said. And even if you don't stay at the dojo, I mean, when Sensei wakes up, we're there. And then just before he goes to bed, we're going home. So we're still with him full time, just not staying in the dojo or in his house.
Yep. And it's that commitment that's missing.
What's that?
It's that commitment that's missing.
Yes, yes.
In this day and age. I'll tell you a story. Saito Sensei said once, he was at a party and someone said, Sensei, how many students do you have? And he said, thought for a minute, 3. And they said, oh, but you've got hundreds of students all over the world. And why do you say 3? And everyone at the party stopped and listened to what he had to say. And he says, there's only 3 people I know who would give up what I would give up for the dojo. Therefore, I have only 3 students. And for me, that's a good definition of an uchideshi. In the old days, Obata Sensei said, in the old days, an uchideshi would take on your teacher's woes, would look after the teacher's children, walk them to school, bathe them, because you were part of the family. You took on the duties. In 1999, there was some problems at the Yoshinkan. And so Darren Friend Sensei called me and he said, Chira Sensei says there's a meeting next week. Can you come? All the senior teachers from all the different countries are coming. He wants you to come. And I said, you kidding? And Darren said, yeah, I've told him it's expensive, it's short notice. And I said, he's standing behind you, isn't he? And Darren said, yes. And Chira Sensei picked up the phone and said, Chira desu. And I said in Japanese, can I speak English? He said, no. And he said to me in Japanese, I know it's short notice, I know it's expensive, but I'll see you next week. Off. Put the phone down. And that was what was expected.
Yeah.
Not even expected, that's just it is. And if you can't handle that, don't be a deshi. I'm not saying I'm Chira Sensei's uchi deshi, but if you can't handle that, don't call someone your teacher.
Yeah, actually, before I became deshi, I really had no clue what was involved. I just, like I said, seen the videos, seen some guy taking uke, and that's it. That's all I thought there was to it. And yeah, I was completely wrong.
Yeah.
But it was a learning process. But yeah, I'm happy I did it now. But those were definitely difficult 9 years.
I'll give you a secret. All my deshi have to be able to drink, because when I go to Eastern Europe and they hand me vodkas, I slip it to the deshi. They've got to finish it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The student-teacher relationship.
Sure.
You know, there's an old saying, Japanese saying, if there's no teacher, there's no Budo. It's not about organizations. It's about a student-teacher thing. And in a way, that's why I left the Yoshinkan, because my teachers were kicked out. Inoue Sensei, Chida Sensei, they were kicked out. And I had no relationship with Shoda Yasuhisa. And that's why I left, essentially. How important is that student-teacher relationship for you and for your thinking of Budo?
I think it's really important. For example, when I first came to Japan, I said I was at the Ochiai Dojo and there was all the big names there. I think that was more like Aiki dating. So like I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know whose character fit, what technique fit. So I think at first you have to look around, but once you find the right teacher, it's more important to just stay with one person and to learn everything. Then you can use your past experiences and then mix it up, but it has to be a one-on-one thing.
It's interesting. That was what Chris Johnson said as well.
Oh, really?
If you find a teacher, stick with him. If you have to travel like, you know, an hour and a half, you travel an hour and a half. But don't chop and change, which is interesting. You know, I know people who have. I've had lots of teachers, but I don't think I've actually left my old teacher or my first teacher. I just accumulated other teachers.
Yeah.
So yeah. And Takano Sensei used to say to me, you know, he had one teacher and one teacher only. And he said to me, I had to choose. But for me, the wealth of my experience was having many teachers, and I wasn't going to change that. So, you've taken uke for lots of people, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And so give me some of your reflections on taking uke for certain teachers. Inoue Sensei, for example.
But I think it would be disrespectful to his deshi and people who've taken more uke than I to put my opinion on that, though. I haven't taken uke enough, and it was 15 years ago.
All right. So, well, I'm not his deshi, but I've taken his uke, and I'm happy to talk about it. I've taken Chida Sensei's uke. I'm happy to talk about it. Because if we don't, then that wisdom and experience dies. And like you said, you know, you've quantified it. It's your opinion, and yeah, feel free.
Well, I only remember taking Inoue Sensei's uke in the Kenshu classes, and it was for, I think, Kokyuho and Shiho Nage and Koki Nage. But I just grabbed onto him and I felt nothing. And then I was just down. It was just, there was a softness, but completely took my balance. That's about all I remember.
Well, I have the identical, you know, experience. I grabbed him. Next thing I was on the mat, and I stood up and I said, you know, one more time, and I grabbed even harder. He didn't change what he did. He just did the same thing, and he had me. And I said to him, you know, how'd you do that? And he just did this and walked away. But the reason, see, if we don't talk about it, people, they're not going to experience him anymore. Yeah. So, okay, Chida Sensei.
Again, I think that was in the evening classes on Tuesdays. I took his uke quite often, and timing. What I found most fascinating was just timing was always on. Every throw was perfectly in tune with the rhythm, and this timing was fantastic.
I'll share something with Chida Sensei. I'd gone to Canada and the States, and I'd come back to Tokyo on the way back to Melbourne. And so from the States to Tokyo, I was jet lagged as hell. It was a really hot day. I couldn't sleep. Went to the dojo in the morning, trained a couple hours, had a nap in the afternoon, couldn't sleep, came back in the evening, and you know, did the aisatsu with Chida Sensei, and he said to me, you're going to be my uke. So it was some Soriwaza Ryote Mochi Someri Minage, right? And I think it was each, right? And I was pushing. Well, in Soriwaza, I was pushing. And he did the technique. Again, he explained, and I pushed hard, and he did the technique. And again, 3 or 4 times, I was pushing, he did the technique. I go back, train with the partner, like, you know, in the Ippon classes, and I grab my partner's hands and start pushing. And my partner says, it's each. And I said, no, you know, come on, I was just the uke for the man. You know, it's knee. His partner saying, no, each. I look up, and Chida Sensei goes, ichi ne. But the class of the man, he didn't change anything he did. It was smooth. He didn't correct me. You know, I'm putting it down to jet lag, but yeah, how can you find that class? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's smooth. And you know, as someone once said, if you see the technique, you don't see the artist. And the technique was just flawless. It was just him. He was doing his thing. Okay, sorry. Ando Sensei.
Just alive. Like I said, constantly changing. So some days soft, some days hard, some days fast, some days slow. I mean, his technique's constantly changing. He's always studying, just reading books, watching videos. So it keeps us on our toes, but it's just alive.
Okay. So how important is it to be an uke to learn Aikido?
Yeah, it's it. I think it's everything. If you don't feel the technique, I mean, you only see the form, you don't know the substance. It's the only way to learn Aikido, I believe.
Okay. So look, there's a problem with about the conception or misconception in Aikido, and a lot of it has to do with uke. A lot of ukes are, you know, when they grab you, they lock themselves up, or they give you their balance. I teach ukes to maintain their balance, and the shite has to take the balance. Where do we draw the line between a uke who's super cooperative and someone who's resistive?
I like these conversations. Thank you. For uke, I don't think it's uke's job. Well, it depends on the situation, what the teacher's trying to show. I think you're there just to assist the teacher. So, I mean, you're not just going to give into the techniques and just fall over. And I think, as Reg Sensei said, like getting struck with lightning or whatever. Yeah. But you're there to assist the teacher, to try to help them show the technique as you feel they're trying to show it. So, I mean, don't lock up, don't fall over. But I mean, if they're trying to show the substance, then, and they tell you to grab hard, then you grab hard. If they're just trying to show the form, then you just show the form. So I think there's time and place for everything. And that's what uke's job is, to read the atmosphere, to know your teacher, to know what they're trying to show, what points they're trying to show.
But, okay, so it depends on the situation. But sometimes the uke is so outlandish, or so, you know, some of the ukes scream like they're having a baby or something. You know, it's it just gets ridiculous. Where do we draw that line? Where do we draw that line?
That's tough. But well, one thing, I think Reg Sensei was saying an example there about some senior instructor, and if it's your first time with a student, you don't know how they're going to react. You don't know if they're looking for substance or if they're looking for form. You don't know if they're going to stiffen up, if they're going to be flexible. I think that's what we're striving for, to be able to put on that technique perfect in the first shot. But with a deshi that you're using all the time, you know exactly how they're going to strike. You know how they're going to react. You know how their balance is, how to break their balance. So you get a better reaction because I mean, you just fit perfectly usually on the first shot at it.
Yeah, look, you know, I like using people that I'm used to, and I can do a demonstration, not worry about hurting anyone or whatever. And I'm sure it's the same with a lot of the top teachers. You want to use the best uke, so it's not planned, it's not choreographed. You just go for it. But I fear that sometimes Aikido, the uke tries to manufacture the technique for the shite, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I've had people grab me, and before I've gone to do anything, I've been explaining something, and I've just gone to do something, and they've locked themselves up, and they've gone, you know, and I don't use them again. I just can't. There has to be some level of honesty, a degree of honesty.
I think that's the teacher's responsibility, or shite's responsibility. They have to say, you know, well, like you did, you just don't use them again. So I think they know.
See, you hit the nail on the head. Then it's the teacher's responsibility. Yeah, the buck stops with the teacher.
Most ukes are obviously probably trying to do their best. I mean, and of course, some of the times they just want to show a nice ukemi. So it's up to the teacher to tell them, you know, it's not the time and place.
But also half the time you're scared as hell.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you get nervous. You don't want to mess up, especially it's a big demo or seminar. You're in front of a whole bunch of people. It's your first time taking uke for a big teacher. You're doing your best, but you're bound to make mistakes. But the teacher just has to explain.
Okay, good. Look, that uke thing has been the bane of Aikido's existence. You know, it's what makes Aikido good, but it's also what makes Aikido bad. I've had senior teachers say to the uke, resist, and then berate them for resisting incorrectly, or not resisting the correct way. I'm like,
yeah,
I can't do that. For me, if I can't do a technique, I'll say, hey, back to the drawing board. You know, you cannot berate the UK if you say resist and the guy resists and you say that was the wrong way of resisting.
Exactly, and you do that in front of a whole crowd of people, then they're all scared. Nobody's going to take uke again, and they're all going to go down before you even move.
Yeah. Okay. So we could be here for hours.
Excuse me.
Yeah, go on, please.
If you don't mind, you got me on a roll now. So if you could explain to me this no pain nikkajo.
Yes.
It's like a flat Earth society kind of thing. I get this phenomenon with people that think that it shouldn't hurt, or that they can do it without any pain at all. And maybe I've just misunderstood. So I was wondering if you could explain this phenomenon.
Let me quantify this first, right? People say there is no place for pain compliance in Aikido or martial arts. Having worked in those nightclubs, there is a time and place for pain compliance. But if you rely solely on pain compliance, it will not work, right? So there's other elements as well. But pain has a role, okay? Now with nikkajo, I'll give you an example. Chida Sensei once was teaching and he said, you're all doing it too hard, as he always says. And he did nikkajo like this. And then he opened his hands and he just touched me and he had contact and he just went down. And I went down. I didn't know why I went down. I went down. And it's about locking the elbow, body, sorry, wrist, elbow, shoulder, hip, knee, everything, boom, down. So okay. I've done it on occasion. But I can't say I can do it on demand all the time.
No, but I get this. I get this on people who are doing Aikido and who know how to take uke for Aikido. Of course, they lock up, and it's just like hijiate. If you don't know how to take hijiate, it hurts. If you know how to take the ukemi, it doesn't hurt. But the people I speak to think nikkajo, when you do it on your drunk Uncle Mike or one of your kids' class dads, that they're going to be able to put him down without pain. And I just can't see that possible. Well, I mean, we see all the videos of Shiota Sensei, and then he sends his deshi out into the crowd, and they're just dropping people, but they're all shaking their wrist and wincing in pain. So how is it we can expect to do this nikkajo without pain on someone who doesn't know how to take the uke? I know we're not supposed to be focusing on pain compliance, and of course, it's about the balance and taking the balance. But if the person's resisting, there's going to be some discomfort.
Okay, so I think it has to go back to why you're doing it. And I try not to do it on a drunk uncle Dan at the family weddings, or any Aikido. But look, time and a place. I've done nikkajo in nightclubs where, you know, man, the technique went out the window, but it worked. You know, it worked, and the guy was screaming. And I'm not talking balance break or it was just pure pain. That worked. But in the dojo, we want to try and go for that perfect technique, that perfect, you know. So time and place. But like I said, there's a time and place for pain compliance. And no one, if you've been in a real altercation before, no one says to you, geez, how did you put me down? No, they'll say, I'm coming back to get you, you prick. You know, exactly. It's in the dojo that someone says, how did that work and stuff. So time and place, but yeah, that's a really good question. And I'm not a nikkajo flat earther, so sorry, you're asking the wrong person. And
I'm just happy to get that out there.
Well, no, seriously, it's a good question because when I do something, my objective, if I'm not teaching, my objective is to control someone. Be it to throw them or pin them, it's to control them. So I will do anything I can to control them. If I'm teaching, then I will try and teach the correct technique. But if I'm doing it, I will control them. Be it a demonstration, be it someone resisting me in the dojo, in a seminar, or on the street. I will do what I have to do. For me, that's Aikido. And I'm past the point of doing nikkajo, ikkajo. I just do what feels right at the time. But when I'm teaching, that's different. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
All right. Now, just off air, we touched base about the this thing called cultural appropriation. And
Okay.
let me just read the definition for you. Yeah. Cultural appropriation: using another culture's art, etc., to essentially profit from it. It's apparently a big no-no in North America, although I don't think Canadians like being lumped in with the rest. But where people are frowned upon for wearing outfits from other cultures, etc., etc. You've spun it on its head, and you're pretty much doing a Japanese martial art in Japan, teaching. No, and Aikido is not just a martial art; it's a culture. Yeah. So how does that feel? How has that gone down for you? How's that work? Obviously, well, but
Yeah. Well, like you said, I'm over here doing it, so I think it's kind of irrelevant. I mean, if I was wearing my red and white maple cap and holding a hockey stick, cooking poutine, then maybe I'd be kind of doing that. But here in Japan, I mean, if you have a pure heart and you're doing it correctly and you understand the art and what you're trying to teach, and of course, most importantly, the students, they can feel that, then I don't think there's a problem with it over here.
So you're saying that it's not from being a foreigner teaching a Japanese culture to Japanese?
No, actually, I don't think it is. I think if anything, maybe the Japanese respect it. I mean, some of them are probably losing a little bit of their tradition, and they're happy to have us carry it on, I guess. I mean, I've had no problems with any of my students, older or the younger students, none of their parents. Yeah, I don't see any problem with it.
Cool. Well, that's really interesting. That's good. That's good. When training in Japan in the early 80s, there was this feeling that to be good at Budo, you had to be Japanese. Is that I'm getting the idea from you that that's not still the feel?
Well, like that was almost 40 years ago. So I think a lot of things have changed. The Japanese is probably a lot more open, and like a lot of I try to teach more of the history, and my students aren't interested, and I'm surprised. I'm like, well, it's Japanese culture, aren't you interested? And they're like, no, it's fine, whatever. They just want to, in most cases, learn the form, which is kind of disappointing to me.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Look, Ando Sensei's and Ryu Dojo, they've been doing a fantastic job with the children's competition, and I'm hoping to be able to visit one year.
Still waiting for it.
Yeah, next year I don't, yeah, might be hard, but hopefully I'll be there sometime. I noticed that the kids are saying Onigashima rather than os.
Yes.
Is that a shift? Can you talk about that? Is that?
Yeah, I didn't really notice it, but when I was in Canada, I said os a lot more than now that I'm over here. I think it's just a little too hard for this time. I mean, I think I've softened up in a little bit, I think.
So you softened up or?
Not softened up, but I think it's just times have changed. So, I mean, that hard, strict, kind of regimented format doesn't really work as well. I mean, there's still a lot of dojos who are saying it and with meaning, but yeah, at Ryu, I didn't say it as much as I did in Canada. And now that I'm out here on my own, don't say it as much either.
Do you have a preference? I know it's frowned upon in a lot of martial arts schools. Os frowned upon, Do you have a preference being in Japan?
Not really, but it is a habit. I mean, so I still say os, but most of my students don't. The kids don't. I mean, they laugh. They laugh when you say os. Like in demonstrations, we get them to say os before they run up, and they all just smile and giggle. So
times are changing. Yeah, times are changing.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna start to wind it up now. Do you have
Sure.
any advice for people who are thinking of coming to Japan to live or to do martial arts? What would your recommendation be?
I guess it depends if they're coming for a short time or a long time, but either way, if they're coming for martial arts, then just be humble, just show respect, just train, just be a decent human being. Like, don't go to the dojo trying to show how tough you are. Don't teach unless you're asked to. Just I mean, you're gonna mess up the manners. You're not gonna get everything right. You're gonna take your shoes off and you're gonna forget to put them somewhere. That's fine. Nobody expects you to get all that stuff right, but just lose your ego. Just enjoy the training. Just make a good impression. Can I share one story?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I think it was actually your second time that you came to Japan and we met at Ryu Dojo. And so first, of course, you brought presents for Ando Sensei, but you brought presents for us as well. So nobody brings presents for us. Nobody knows who we are. But I still have your Shudokan shirt. And so I remember getting a present from you. And then afterwards, then we trained the Kenshu class. And you lined up with all of us. I mean, at the time you were 7th Dan, I believe. But you lined up, you trained, you paired up with all us juniors. I remember Sensei said, okay, next technique. And you were up before the deshi and you took Ando Sensei's technique. I remember it was fourth control. I don't remember if it was front strike or side strike, but you took the uke. Then after the class, everybody was getting the brooms out. We're cleaning the mats. Ando Sensei went into the office and I remember him calling you, oh, Joe Sensei, Joe Sensei. And then you said, no, I got to finish cleaning the mats. And you finished wiping down all the mats with us, then went into the office. So that's how you make an impression if you come to Japan.
Oh, thank you. Cool. Now, in the interviews that I do, you get to say the last word about anything or everything you want.
Oh, really? Well, that was my last word right there.
The last word. Okay. All right. What about, I'll ask you one more thing then. You talked about changes, right? You talked about, like, we've got Aiki TV and Ando Sensei's got stuff as well. Do you see the way we teach, train, do you see the face of Aikido changing after COVID?
Actually, yes, that's it.
We're still in
Great
lockdown
question.
here in Melbourne. So, yeah.
Yeah, great question. Actually, all your interviews have had the form and substance question. And so now I'm curious about the substance. Because, so now look at us now, social distancing, we can't even pair up and touch each other's hands. In 10, 20, 30 years, are we gonna need to be able to do self-defense? There's gonna have to be more to Aikido than this, I think. And how do we teach that? So you spoke about the substance, and I think as Sakamoto Sensei said, the functionality. How do we teach that? And especially over the internet. That's what I wanted to get your advice.
You know, I'm old school. If there's no teacher, there's no Budo. My uncle once said to me, I was talking to him about a Taekwondo teacher who had like 300 students in a class. And he said, that's ridiculous. How can you teach more than 10 people at a time? And I couldn't figure out what he meant, because I teach a lot more than that. And I figured out that he had to throw and be thrown by everyone on the mat. That was his transmission. It was an old school way of teaching judo. You threw someone, you let them throw you, you move on to the next student, the next student. So that was his way of doing it. And he had to put hands on everyone. We don't teach like that anymore. And he would probably frown upon it. But where is it going? I don't know. I don't know. And I really had to be dragged kicking and screaming into the 21st century and into doing the Aiki TV. It's, you know, for me, it's not me, but I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a shot.
So how do you focus on each student? Like, each student's obviously working on different things.
Were you talking about a Zoom class, or are you talking about
Zoom
Aiki
class,
TV?
or in, like you said, 300 people in one class?
Yeah, well, you know, that's when everyone's lined up and they're doing kata, yeah?
Yeah.
Or, you know, and It's a production factory, like, you know, it's just a factory, black belt factory. Sorry, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. I'm having the problem over here trying to differentiate from the kata and of course the substance. And now most students over here, it's the same thing. They just want to remember the techniques and get their certificates. And
I think I had similar conversation with Joe Sensei a while ago, and he said that's why you need to run different courses. And I think the Yoshinkan had a really, really good system. It had the Ippon classes, which fed into the Kenshu. The Kenshu fed into the Senshusei. Senshusei fed into the Uchideshi. You know, now everyone wants to treat someone like a Kenshusei or as an Uchideshi straight off the boat. Ain't gonna happen. You end up losing people. You need that feeding. You need that feeder. The Yoshinkan, I think, was a brilliant system. And the Yoshinkan syllabus is a brilliant syllabus. Brilliant syllabus. I'm not just saying that, but the way it's formatted, it's amazing.
How do you teach substance to people that aren't interested in the substance?
Don't. I think, but sometimes, I'll give you an example. It depends on what you mean by substance. Yeah, I had this woman in my dojo. She's in her 40s or maybe going 50, 2 kids, and she was doing a Shodan test. And I had a sandan working with her, preparing her, and he was very jovial. She was jovial, and I said, no, that's not what she needs. I need you to be strict with her, but not technically strict, but strict in kamae, strict in your attitude, right? And he couldn't do it. So I switched. She had another partner, and this partner worked with her. No smiles, no nothing. And she did an absolutely great test. For her, the substance that was needed was the attitude. Not to be a fighter, but to be in the zone or to just focus. And I think you discover what people need and you try and give it to them. And a good teacher will give you what you want and then give you what the art dictates. A not so good teacher will say, no, that's not important, do this. You've got to give people low hanging fruits and then get them to jump for the high fruits up higher as well.
Give them what they want or give them what they need?
I think what they want.
Really?
First. Give them what they want first. Otherwise, you won't keep them.
No, true.
Yeah.
But if they only get what they want, then will they improve?
You know, they say if you go to a hardware store, a bad salesman will sell you a set of nails. A good salesman will find out what you want the nails for and sell you a whole fence. Right? So, but he won't say you don't need the nails. Right? So you come to the dojo, you say you want fitness, I'll say yes. You want self-defense, I'll say yes. You want weapons training, I'll say yes. But you got to do this first before you learn weapons. And so you feed them what they want, and then you give them what they need or what the art dictates you give them.
Agreed.
So that's my thing. Yeah. So okay, all right, we're gonna wind it up. Thank you, Jim Dawes Sensei, and
thank you very much,
everyone. In my opinion, in the next level of teachers coming up, Jim Dawes Sensei, like John Marshall Sensei, is one of those few people that no one will say anything bad about, and that's very rare in martial arts.
Let's see after the interview.
They're great teachers, great potential, and watch this space. These people are going far. Os, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Os.